we've just built a software solution that helps everybody get far more out of their current or existing hardware environments. We can have way more impact. We can actually have some great impact from not even just the computing perspective, but we can also start solving some energy problems with our solution, because you don't have to build more data centers. You don't have to go get more hardware. So putting our beautiful BI tool product, which works great, but we had to put that on the shelf, redirected the entire company, built a new product, and now we're going to market with that.
That spark of innovation, it's just waiting for the perfect combination of tools and talent to bring it to life. Welcome to Pitch, Build, Scale. I'm your host, Chris Fanchi, a recovering startup founder, veteran SaaS marketer, turned dev tech enthusiast and growth specialist. Each episode, we connect with the builders, the visionaries, and the problem solvers who are redefining what's possible with today's technology and pioneering the websites, apps, and software products of tomorrow. These are the conversations that transform how we build, how we sell, and how we scale technology businesses in a world where the tech evolves by the minute. Ready to stay ahead of the curve? This is Pitch, Build, Scale. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Pitch, Build, Scale. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Big North Marketing and specialize in helping dev shops and SaaS companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your SaaS or dev business to the next level, be sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. We really are excited to have today's guest, Todd Smith, co-founder and CEO at Opnbook, a leader in AI infrastructure optimization. Todd's experience spans 3 global tech brands, 2 of which he helped scale pre-IPO all the way to enterprise maturity. Todd, welcome to the show.
Chris, thanks a lot. Happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, absolutely. So place I like to start is your journey, but let's go back to the beginning. What first got you interested in technology?
Oh, my father. So my father was always into, he was a DJ. He was a police officer, but he also he had a moonlight job as a DJ back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I used to help him with the DJ equipment and setting all of that stuff up. And that kind of got me hooked early on. And I think also being a child of the 80s, just technology, just in general, there were so many things that came out, whether it was video gaming systems or just computers and all the tech that integrates with all of those different pieces, and just being around all of that. And over time, that kind of hooked me early on, figuring things out. And that's pretty much where it all comes from for me.
Okay, so how did that guide your education and then your career path?
Oh, yeah. So I focused quite a bit on audio engineering initially, and that TED led me through several jobs in the audiovisual and media space. And over time, after working several jobs in that space early on in my career, I ended up in Silicon Valley with a staging and production firm that also provided a lot of IT services. And leaning into that actually created some opportunities with Silicon Valley-based companies for me to go in and do the same thing. And I actually ended up working with Facebook back in 2011, and I got pulled into their IT organization early on, pre-IPO. Learned a lot about IT through that, because when you're in those rapid growth companies, there's not enough resources, not enough people, and there's way too much work to be done. So I had to learn how to do some other things from some of the best in the industry, some of the greatest IT minds that are out there. And I started to learn a lot about infrastructure through that, really gravitated towards that. And then rinse and repeat, did the same, leaning into the infrastructure realm with Snapchat pre-IPO years later. And then, got to, again, roll up my sleeves in some areas that, again, there weren't enough resources, and lean into some other areas that need some technical leadership. And, then moved into becoming an executive with Docker. And that's really what shaped my entire career, but it bridged from that audio engineering, multimedia space into IT and infrastructure. And that was kind of the path.
So when startups talk about move quickly and break things, you're the guy coming in and fixing them afterwards.
Yeah, I've broken quite a bit of it there. So, so definitely a guilty party in that, but have fixed a lot. Yeah. So.
So have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur or run your own business, or is that something that came upon you a little bit later in life?
There's always been a gravity to running my own business, and I've had the privilege of working for some outstanding founders in my day. And certainly with the production company, it was called Audiovisual Techniques, AVT, and that was the production company. The founder of that company is just brilliant, great source of motivation for me, huge on educating me. I still speak with him from time to time today. And I anchor a lot of my entrepreneurial spirit to him. I also have a co-founder that I had met while working there who founded their own company in Silicon Valley, and successful post-exit founder who's obviously now a co-founder here at Opnbook running he's like our CXO, COO. And again, just there's always been a gravity to wanting to do something. Never really had the gumption or the bravery to go after it myself. But then last year, in speaking with my other co-founder, Justin Gelinas, and there's a third co-founder, our CTO, Michael Ashby. But in speaking with Justin towards the tail end of my time over at Docker, and then finally deciding to leave Docker and go do this. But yeah, it was there was there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that I can give you a ton of reasons why I didn't, but ultimately it was courage at the end of the day that finally mustered up a little bit with a lot of prodding and pushing from my co-founder to finally go and do it. But yeah, there's always been a gravity to wanting to do my own thing and wanting to be a CEO. That's been ever present throughout my life. But again, just being ignorant to how you do it. And then that last piece, I got a ton of education through Snapchat, through Facebook. I got to work with a lot of founders in doing all of that because I worked on a lot of the teams that were working from an operations perspective on those that we had executed at both of those brands. And that really helped me get some insights into all of it. But again, it was courage that held me back. The lack of it that held me back. I was the cowardly lion in that story.
So what was it that changed? What helped you go get over the line and make the decision finally to go through with it?
I think it was just the idea. It was just so good. I think also taking a hard look at, hey, I'm in my late 40s now, and it's kind of a now or never thing, right? If I'm actually going to explore it and try it and go after it, it really has a lot to do with that. I had the honor of sitting on a few customer advisory boards for other startups, and speaking with those founders, being able to pick their brains and see they've had their own successes and failures, right? All of the ones that I've met have had, IPOs, successful exits, and they've also had some really challenging times where they've had to close the doors. But talking with them through that and also learning about the very, very worst, learning about the whole range, but learning about the very worst stories, the horror stories of it all, you kind of digest that when you're looking at everything and you're thinking about everything through the lens of, okay, what's the worst case scenario? But there's a comfort in the fact that these successful individuals have had their failures and the ultimate failure of a startup and having to close the doors. But listening to them and their stories and realizing that they're still here, they're still formidable business individuals, and they're moving on to their next things as well. And they've become successful later. You realize that those are some of the swings and the ups and downs of it all. So, you know, getting comfortable with understanding those stories, the push of my co-founder, Justin, as well as just the idea that we have right now, which has now materialized as a product, and seeing our initial customers now getting so excited about it, all of those different pieces come together as a part of the recipe of what, that helped push me along and pull me from a gravity perspective towards this endeavor, and I'll tell you, I love it. It's not easy, but I love it. I absolutely love every aspect of it. I've made a lot more money in my day in other realms of working for people, but I'll tell you the satisfaction of laying my head down on my pillow at the end of every night, at the end of every day, just feeling the weight of the responsibility, but the satisfaction of getting that day done and looking forward to what we got to accomplish next day. And then indexing to the team that you've built and seeing just seeing the thrill of it all and the accomplishment and the satisfaction that they get out of building all of this, because it's their company too, right? And that's just something that I just feel so well grounded in, and it just feels so great, and it just feels right, so.
Yeah. Now, there's a reason that so many entrepreneurs become serial entrepreneurs. It's truly addicting, and even the lows, even when you do have the companies that fail, that just you look at it as, okay, what can I learn for the next time? How can I do it better next time? Right.
I think if you're doing it right, I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're doing it right and you have the right frame of mind, you can't keep a great founder down. And the right founder is going to, they just don't quit. And I think that's consistent throughout all founders, is they just have this never say die attitude, and they charge at the hill and they charge at the impossible. And they do so with the gusto of positive attitude and positive thinking, and they just don't let go of that. And it's something I've attempted to learn from all of the founders I've met and try to capture from them and emulate, as best as I can, because I think that it's they're unique individuals. And I while we're doing it now, I still feel like there's a lot to be earned to become one of those individuals, and certainly in pursuit of that.
So tell us a little bit more about the earliest days of Opnbook. Was there a specific problem or inefficiency that made you go, this needs to be solved? And how much did your past experience inform that?
Yes. So the story of Opnbook is multi-chaptered. We started working on it on May 6th of last year. So we just passed the 1-year mark of that. We founded officially on July 8th and incorporated officially on July 8th of last year. So it's not a long story, but we do have multiple chapters already. And, when we first started the company, we saw the biggest problem in the industry we felt is certainly an AI problem. That was, hey, everybody was under the gun to provide an AI strategy and to provide their investors, the public, their board of directors. They were trying to answer in 2022 and 2023, well, what's your AI strategy? And then they would turn around internally and go, we need an AI strategy, right? Because just that AI wave was crashing on everyone. And it was just, everybody just was trying to figure out whether you're a company that was trying to figure out how to weave AI into your product, we certainly saw a lot of that. Or if you're just a company that's trying to figure out, well, how do we leverage it? And you couldn't help but just feel behind all of the time, everywhere that you looked. Well, in that activity of trying to figure out that strategy, companies would just go out and scoop up all of the AI tools that they could, or just add them to the environment, many times in an uncontrolled manner. But they would say, that was their answer. They would say, well, we're getting XYZ AI in place and giving it to our team to work with. Well, great. Well, that satisfied that initial, what's your AI strategy? Then a year later, those same folks come back and say, how's that AI strategy working out? And the reality was, a lot of them were kind of hit by a bucket of cold water in that moment and said, we don't really know. We don't really know what kind of productivity we're getting out of our AI. We don't know who's using it, who's not using it, how it's being consumed by our teams, and what effects or impact is it having on our business. Many companies could not answer that question. That was originally why we started Opnbook, was to build a BI tool that observed the usage of AI throughout a business and provided business intelligence, provided reporting on who's using it well, who's using which tools, how in its aggregates, what portions of your business is your organization leveraging AI? What kind of work are you getting done with it? We built that tool. We actually spent about like 6 or 7 months building that tool, invested plenty of money into building that tool, and it worked, and it worked quite well. Interestingly, we had decided that we did not want to build it as a SaaS tool because we didn't want to siphon all of that IP out of these companies, out of our customers. When we decided that, our brilliant developer team, in our small developer team, we've got some killer engineers on our team, said, team, we need to figure out how to land this in our customers' environment, in their data environment. However, as it stands now, it's going to be way too compute intensive for their environments. We're going to kill their budget models for their data environments, and we need to make certain that it's really lightweight if we're going to do this. Team worked on it, came back to us, said, hey, we figured it out. They certainly did. However, myself, Justin, and Michael, the three founders, looked at this and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We solved something way different here. This infrastructure solution is the product. And when we identify that, because there's a way bigger market, when you look at the high performance computing market, okay, and you're talking about how there's not enough hardware to point at all of the high performance computing needs, especially in the age of AI. We see that's expressed in the value of Nvidia today. It's expressed through their backlog of 25. They have a 25% rolling backlog of business they can't even serve, which is valued somewhere around like the $6 billion mark, right? So when you look at all of those indicators and the fact that we've just built a software solution that helps everybody get far more out of their current or existing hardware environments, we've got a product that we can point at this problem, and that's just a way bigger market. We can have way more impact. We can actually have some great impact from not even just the computing perspective, but we can also start solving some energy problems with our solution, because you don't have to build more data centers. You don't have to go get more hardware. So with all of this in mind and recalibrating to the new problem that we're pointing at solving, and putting our beautiful BI tool product, which works great, but we had to put that on the shelf in order to start attacking this. So we put that on the shelf, redirected the entire company, built a new product, and now we're going to market with that. We just signed our first couple customers about a week ago. We've got a couple other contracts in flight right now. We've got a big brand that we're starting to work with right now. We're excited about it, but yeah, I know that I just answered far more than what you asked, and hey, take us back to the start and the problem. But like I said, it's layered, and in such a short amount of time, we went such a long way with our company and in how we actually got to the problem that we're solving for now and the solution, which is called TAHO. It's our infrastructure software that we now sell to anybody that's executing high performance computing. So it could be crypto miners, it could be other AI companies, it could be companies that are leveraging or building their own AI solutions within their companies. It could be AR, VR, gaming, could be anybody that's in looking for media solutions like streaming media and media processing, things of that nature, and everything that fills in there, big data processing, anything and everything that's in high performance computing today with lots of throughput. So anyways,
Yeah.
that's the long answer to your very easy question.
No, that's a fascinating journey. It's so funny. Like, you're only a year into your startup journey and you've already got a pivot in there, right? You're getting the full experience.
Oh my gosh, we're in it. We're in every ounce of the startup journey for sure. And quite frankly, and to your point, Chris, it's easy to think, man, this is, what are we doing here? Where are we already screwing up? Or, you start feeling insecure about the fact that you had to pivot. because this other revelation came up. You spent half a year not only building something, but selling to everybody what you're building and talking to investors about this cool thing that you're building, this BI tool for AI. And now, you have to shift gears and tell everybody that you're shifting gears and do so transparently and in the open. And, you get into there, you have many insecure moments as a founder, and this certainly fed into that insecurity. But, the cool thing is when you start talking to other founders and more experienced founders, and maybe even some folks who've helped a lot of founders, like other, VC firms and other investors, it's a normal story. It's a very normal story where you think you got your finger on the pulse of the problem, and many people do at the jump. But, then all of a sudden, it's possible to spill a beaker and then all of a sudden figure out that you found penicillin. That can happen. And then you just pivot into a totally different direction. That story happens more often than not, I've learned as I've talked to other folks. But like I said, that insecurity settles in, and, and you just you just wear it and move forward with it. So.
Yeah. The history is full of, even recent history is full of startup founders who were out to build something else. They built a solution for their own problem that they were dealing with while trying to build that something else, and that solution became their company. So
Yeah.
very, very
Guilty as
interesting.
charged.
So you've worked across massive organizations as well as startups. Was there a moment that you knew that what you guys were working on had just huge potential?
Yes. Well, it was that aha moment when the team came forward with the infrastructure solution to the BI tool. Especially myself and our CTO, Michael Ashby, because both he and I had worked in that hyperscaler environment. He more so than me, because, not just, Google and the later iteration of Meta, but when he also spent that time with me over at Snapchat, and then he had moved on to Disney. We knew right away that when they showed it to us, and of course there was the initial, great, they solved it for this BI tool, but it didn't take us long to go, my gosh, this has so many other applications, because we've worked in those hyperscale or very big data environments, right? If you when we were with Snapchat, heck, we back in 2017, at the time, we were there when they had negotiated the very largest Google Cloud Services. They had the very largest Google Cloud Services contract at the time, which was a 5-year contract that was over $1 billion at the time. There's over $2 billion over 5 years at the time, right? So, we had been exposed to these big data environments multiple times. And it's not even just a single thing. Yeah, you can point it, as I was noting before, or anything in HPC, but we saw the possibilities that go far beyond. Today, of course, man, pointed at AI, go ahead and use it in these AI solutions. If you go on our website, you'll see how we take a cold start to inference that would take over a minute to under a second using our technology, just replacing that infrastructure layer of software. And you can go on our website and go check it out. But yeah, it's obvious to point it at AI today, but there's just so much potential there to improve so many other processes for so many companies and help them with that cost center of infrastructure that's just growing like wildfire for everybody right now. And it was indexing to that experience at working at those really large infrastructure consuming companies that really shine it was through that lens that we saw the potential for this product. And it was that big aha moment. If we didn't have that infrastructure experience, we may have missed that, and we may still be pushing on that the other software solution that we had built, which works great. I'm sure we could have built a great little company around it, which we had originally set out to do, but we would have missed this bigger thing, right? We would have missed this bigger opportunity. The other cool thing is, about an opportunity like this, you look at it through the lens of not just creating more productivity or saving costs for these big companies, but you also look at the energy challenges that are out there today, right? With the high performance computing and today's data center solutions. You also look at, the environmental challenges of, hey, where are you going to get all the cooling resources for this? Where's all the water going to come from? So when we can solve those challenges with software, the magic of software, I mean, that's really what it's all about. That's really what those early hackers back in the 70s were really thinking about when they built software for the betterment of man and the pursuit of the betterment of man, you know? And
Mhm.
I feel as though we've got that human-centered solution now that really delivers on the promise of software. That's what's exciting about it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that is very exciting. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about what the business looks like right now. How large is your team, and who are the target clients that you're going after?
Yep. So the team is a total of 8 personnel today. That's myself and 3 of those being myself and the other 2 co-founders. Then we have a single individual doing marketing for us, managing brand strategy and marketing, doing a fantastic job. And then we have 4 developers, and they're the horsepower to our organization, both in the IP that we're creating and in executing to customer needs, right? And shaping all of this up. It's like I said, it's a small organization today. It's interesting how rapidly or how fast that can become a major expense, even though it's a small team. There's a burn rate that's associated with it, and every founder can relate, I'm
Mhm.
sure. Uh, and then on the ICP side, our ICP today, we aim our product again at anything that's high performance compute. There's a lot of advice out there that's going to tell you that to get far more focused on that ICP. We think it's a mistake for us in our realm. Yeah, it'd be nice to just focus on just a certain one profile of company. Our early customers, our early adopters today, the ones that we've already signed and the ones that we're working on signing today, they all have different needs. All of them, every single one of them has a different need. And we feel as though we've built a ubiquitous enough product that we should spread it out because it's forcing us to optimize our product for multiple companies, for it to be a lift, a forklift into their environments and just work. Whereas
Mhm.
I feel as though if we just aimed at one company type today and aimed it at one problem, which VCs love to see that. They like that. They like to see that. But I think that it would force us to over engineer for a single solution and not engineer with a bias towards a ubiquitous solution across all of them. So yeah, we're breaking a rule there, I think. And I've been told that by multiple VCs who have said no thanks, but I feel as though it's the right thing to do. And our team feels as though it's the right thing to do today. When we look at that ICP, though, even though it's anybody and everybody that's doing high performance computing, we do focus in on a specific profile of individual. And the profiles of individuals that we focus on are infrastructure leaders. So CTOs, CIOs. We also look at founders, CFOs really,
Mhm.
really we have a huge impact on that bottom line. And that's something that they're very interested in. That's oftentimes been a great cold entry point for us as CFOs over anybody else, because you get that CFO that forces the balance of the organization to take a good look at what it is that we can do. And then other infrastructure leaders like VPs of infrastructure engineering managers and directors of the like, those are great entry points for us. IT owners too, there's directors of IT or VPs of IT within organizations. So we
Mhm.
have a profile of leader and decision maker with an organization we look at as an entry point. But we do shotgun blast our ICP from the perspective of who's consuming a lot of high performance computing, who has the pain of seeing that infrastructure line item on their balance sheet just climb year over year with all of the new needs in tech that are coming out today, mostly driven by AI, but certainly driven by other forms of high performance computing.
Yeah, that's certainly industry agnostic at this point. There's so many industries where that's the case and that's a need for sure. So you mentioned VCs. So you guys are currently fundraising. Have you raised any funds prior to this?
So we are in the middle of a paused seed round. And what we've done so far is we've raised about $1 million on a $2.5 million seed round. And that mill gave us some runway. And the one thing that we kept running into with everybody that I speak with, it was, hey, cool tech, you got some great stuff going here, but don't know if you've proven out a business yet because you don't have much traction. So we just decided, hey, you know what? We're tired of having that door closed in our face. And we're tired of hearing from everybody. We'll see you later and talk to you later, or call us when you're ready for a Series A. I mean, you get that. You get that so many times. I mean, we've spoken to over 100 investors, mostly VCs today, and we've heard that so many times. And we just said, hey, you know what? We've got some good runway with the money we've raised so far. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. Let's see what kind of traction we can develop now that we have an MVP. And like I said, we've recently started. We've already signed some customers. We've got some active conversations right now where we're sorting out the T's and C's of those contracts, and we'll move to MSA later this month. So yeah, the traction story's coming together. It's still funny because we'll take calls from, we're not pursuing investors, but we'll take calls from investors that tap our shoulders and may have something interesting to offer. But still, it's like that brass ring constantly is pulled out of reach for you, because now we still have that story. We've got people that are paying us. We're actually doing work for them. And we've got some active, great leads going right now. But then you hear, yeah, but are you doing 300,000 a year in ARR yet? Because that's where we want to invest. It's constantly, and what we find is I want to own the fact that maybe we don't pitch right, or maybe they look at us and say, hey, there's not enough of a strong founder story here, or there may be those things too. And all of it's a read on us, and all of it's a reflection on me, certainly as the CEO. However, what I'm seeing a lot of is VCs are really trying to de-risk their investments today. And it's been tough out there since 2021. It's been really tough, and especially when you look at all the statistics that are out there, when you see the ice bath that Lena Khan put on a lot of things from a regulatory perspective. And there's a lot, and you listen to the All In podcast, and those guys will tell you a lot. That's a repeating theme, in how risk averse everybody is today on the investment side. And we're certainly seeing it. We're seeing it, as we go. We do have an amazing VC that's on our cap table now. We've also had some incredible angels that are on our cap table. There's a university investment arm that hopped on our cap table as well. And they are all in the spirit of taking on some risk behind a great idea, an amazing team, and some aspirational founders. They've seen that story, and they see it. And quite frankly, to me, they are fully in the spirit of being that venture investor, right? And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that reflected too much elsewhere. We're right in line with all the goals we've set forth for ourselves, both in the traction story, the product delivery story. Like, we're there, we're doing it. And all of the commitments we've made to date, we've kept, and we've met and exceeded. And we've got some great additional story coming. But quite frankly, I'll even tell you this. I told you we've got an open seed round that we've paused, and we're not aggressively raising on, but we'll listen to people. But, earlier today I heard, it was today that I heard, hey, yeah, this all sounds great, looks great, but we're looking for someone that's already doing 300K a year in ARR. So when you get there, we're going to be interested in hearing from you. Now, look, it's not the specific VC I spoke with. That's a recurring theme. Quite frankly, when we hit that, I don't know that we need anybody else on our cap table. So quite frankly, we probably, I'm not interested in going back after those folks and re-engaging them. So the way that we see it is, hey, you know what? Now it's a race to, are we going to get enough customers to where we don't need any more VC? Or is the right VC that's willing to take on the risk of starting with us now and not just having us shoulder all the risk today? Actually, is that VC going to find us before then? And it's just kind of interesting for us to watch and see which happens first. And you know what? We're okay with either one. We're okay with either one. So,
Yeah.
we got a great product, incredible team. We got some revenue kicking up now, and it's just going to be interesting. We're just going to let it play out the way it plays out and move on from there, because we got a killer product. Nobody else can touch it. It's an amazing, amazing piece of tech that if anybody goes on our website and checks it out, I mean, just go watch the one demo that we have on there. It's a 2-minute video, and it'll blow your mind. Because it's magic. It's magic dust. We're selling magic dust today, and it's a cool thing. So
Yeah. Now, sometimes you wonder if those landmarks or traction numbers that they're looking for is just kind of an excuse. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons out there why VCs might be a little hesitant right now. You've got
oh my gosh, I've heard it
economic
all. I've heard it
uncertainty.
all. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard
you've
it all.
got
I've heard, oh, you guys aren't, if you're not in Silicon Valley or in New York, you can't build what it is that you want to build. And, I've heard so
yeah,
much,
right.
so much feedback on from so many angles, but at the end of the day, to your point, you don't know if you're getting the real reason that they're not investing in you. There is a profile that they're looking for, but I also think that, to a degree, I also think that they're sugarcoating it to a
Mm.
degree because there's a real reason that they look at you and they don't see what it is that they want, in a founder, and there's some intangibles in their little list behind the scenes that they're checking. And, hey, look, if that's the case, then more power to you. I hope you can go and find that lesser risk or that better founder that you are looking for to deploy your funds. Go, seriously, really, have a nice life and go find that,
And
but
really,
quite,
that goes both ways, right? Because as a founder, you want a VC that or investor that can bring more than just money to the table, especially
right.
when you've got a solution like this. You'd love to have those introductions, get some referrals, they already have investments in other companies that your solution can help.
Portcos, right? So those portfolio companies is something we care a lot about, and if the right next investor for us is going to bring a couple of those to the table, they're also going to
Mm.
bring some go-to-market know-how to the table for what it is that we're doing. But I'll also tell you that when you have a product that's game changing like the one that we have, the majority of them don't even know what to do with that, right? The majority of the VCs that are out there, they have zero experience with something like that. There are a couple out there, but they're few and far between. And the reality is a lot of them are looking for a business in a box, like a business
Right.
that just needs a couple bucks to get to that next goal or to that next horizon, right? And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of them are looking for, but very few of them really know what to do with game changing technology, right? Very few of them are the Peter Thiel to the Mark Zuckerberg, right? And, that's just a reality of all of this. And, that's okay. That's okay. We're figuring it out. And to your point, yeah, you have maybe a profile that you're looking for. I'm also going to tell you plain and simple, Chris, we're not normal and we're just looking for today. We got the line on the customers. We don't have a problem finding customers, and we've got a line of customers today that we can't serve. So we're really not even looking for that from our perspective. It's, if it's the right VC for us, they'll have some experience they can bring to the table here. They've got some know-how from a go-to-market perspective, but they're going to put their money where their mouth is, and they're actually going to be a venture capital firm that takes risk you know, on a company with great tech like us. They're going to roll the dice a little bit and take on some of that risk, but the majority of what we've seen today is very risk averse and very non venture capital. The majority of them are far, they're not venture in nature. That's what we've seen. But I think it's a reflective of I think it's reflective of the economy. I think it's reflective of looking at tech from an investor lens over the last 3 years has not been a great place to put their money. And I think that it's really made people with the regulatory environment on top of that just makes everybody really risk averse. When you look at what happens from a regulatory perspective on M&As over the last 3 years, right? It's just been it's been an ice bath, and I think we're certainly in the midst of all of those factors swimming around what we have going on today. So it's just a part of it. I think a founder from that perspective, today's founder, has to have a lot of grit. You got to be smart in how you bootstrap. Go find some great talent out there that's not in the market, maybe some great talent that is willing to work for an equity stake, some benefits, and the bare minimum of pay that you know, uh, but can get behind your ideas, And I think founders that are able to do that in building an organization today, and then just get out there and sell the heck out of your product, those founders can look up this hill today in this environment and navigate it. We're doing it, and other founders that I've met are doing it today, and it's just the climate. It's going to change. It'll change too for the better. Will it change before we actually finish this seed summit that we're on? It might not. But we're also kind of banking on that because, it may set the wind at our sails for a Series A round, and I think that anybody in our state today that's in the same realm, I think really needs to think about it from that perspective, because it swings, and this is a low ebb in the flow of it's a low ebb in the flow of multi-year investment schedules. And
Yeah.
if you can get through it now, it'll benefit you in I think in the future raises that you're going to have in your startup.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is that question mark about if you don't get in early enough on a company with the efficiencies provided by AI in building an organization, is there even going to be a need for that Series B or C down the road? Or is just
Hoping
a little
not.
bit of money up front going to be enough to go indefinitely?
We're certainly seeing that. We're leveraging quite a bit of AI in our realm, and I think we do a lot with AI. Our productivity from what I've seen in other tech companies I've worked with, our productivity with our 8-person organization, probably equivalent to like a 30-person organization. And we can do a lot. I mean, we can do a lot with our AI tooling today that you couldn't even do 2 years ago. And, that means that our profile has changed quite a bit. But to your point, it brings into question, what does a Series A look like now? You know what I mean? For a company
Mhm.
like ours. And what kind of revenues can we generate with this tiny organization? We got our eyes set on doing multi-million-dollar ARR revenues without growing our organization by one headcount. And we certainly see a path to that today. It's up to us to execute and to prove it out. But to your point, what does a Series A look like for a company like that? And because, yeah, we could go raise the money, but do we need to? Because what kind of headcount are we going to need into the future?
Mhm.
Are we also, to your point, are the VCs so risk averse today that they're going to completely miss the boat on the investment opportunity on the whole?
Yeah.
That's a total possibility, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
we'll see, to their, they'd be risk averse to their own demise at that point, which is an
Mhm.
interesting thing to think about, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm not some swami with a crystal ball in front of me. I certainly not. I'm another meatball trying to figure it out from a founder perspective that just is lucky enough to be attached to such a great brand and an awesome team with an incredible product. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how it all plays out.
So back to the company, and where do you guys see things going in the next, say, 12 months? What is a big win that you're chasing in the next year?
Yeah. So the big win is, I think we equate that to big brand. You know, we've found that we've gotten really good at finding other founders that need our product. And no shortage of those folks. And the cool thing about building your company or on the business that's provided through other founders is great because, our product helps them with the yield of their existing infrastructure, and that's like infrastructure costs for tech founders today is like a meat cleaver at the end of your runway. And it's just hacking away at that small amount of seed funds that you have to get your company off the ground. And we provide a product that extends that for these companies, which is fantastic. However, and those founders are willing to take a chance. They're like, I'll try it. If you're saying that it can, extend my runway and you can help me with my infrastructure costs for my AI product, yeah, I'll try it. So you have that desire and that threshold for trying new things is fantastic for us. However, the big brands that are out there that would get huge savings and a huge return on investment through working with a product like ours, that's that that's there's a far lower tolerance of risk, right? So they're very risk averse, but there's to penetrate those accounts, they have a lot of high thresholds for security capabilities, for what you've accomplished from a compliance perspective. And they have to, because they're publicly traded. They have a lot of data security concerns or regulatory pieces that they have to hold to. And so for us, that big thing, that next big summit for us is getting that big brand to start leveraging our product. We're a huge boon for that brand. When we land that brand, we're working on a couple today, but when that brand lands our product in their environment, they're going to get huge savings because we have one of those products that really delivers at scale, right? We have a
Mhm.
lot of efficiencies and a lot of productivity that we can provide these companies at scale. Landing that big brand is the next big thing for us. That's the next big part of our story, because we've completed the product's done. The product works. The product's ready to go. So it's helping that big brand from an early adopter program perspective. That's really going to be the biggest part of our next step in our story. We're getting close. We're getting really close. We've got some active conversations. We're working on some proof of concepts for a couple of them right now. And, we're certainly going to leverage that story, that traction story, because once you get those, that big one or two brands under your belt that you can point to when you're talking to other big brands, then it becomes the FOMO story. It's the fear of missing out story for all of them. And that's what we're looking for. That's the windfall we're trying to create for our organization now. So that's where that's at. That's the next big thing for us.
So what would you say is the biggest bottleneck in your company right now? The thing that's slowing you down more than anything else?
Biggest bottleneck for us that's a good question. I want to say that the very biggest bottleneck for us, the thing that slows us down the most, I think that it's administration. I think that administration is a time suck, because when you're doing founder-led sales and when the balance of your organization is focused on either marketing your product or developing your product, the administration overhead has really it's a big weight for us. Just getting simple accounting tasks done, they're just so time intensive. And in a founder-led sales world, the administration pieces of making certain that your team is getting all of what they're owed by your company from a personnel administration, HR administration perspective, getting all of the financial administrative duties executed upon, that's the biggest bottleneck, because when the founders are executing in that space, the product's not getting better and new business isn't coming in through the door. Right. And so I would say that's probably the biggest bottleneck for us today. And you got to do it. but that stuff is so time intensive, and it would be irresponsible for us to hire that out today, right? Just from
Right.
a spend perspective. However, we're about ready. We land a few more customers, we get that revenue coming in, you know, we could probably start dedicating some internal resources to those kinds of things. There's some, probably a VCFO would be a next great step for us. Probably some sort of like, we have outsourced a lot of our HR duties so far, which has helped out a lot. But I think like a VCFO would probably be the next smart resource for us. And once we summit that next piece of traction and revenue, that's probably going to be something that we're going to go do. But we're such an engineering centric organization, and we leverage AI to its fullest capacity today. Once we get that administrative piece done, the next bottleneck is really just our ability to, operationally serve customers, and, scaling that section of the operational engineering section of our organization is going to be that 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 fast follow bottleneck for us, right?
How much of a bottleneck is that side of the business, the operational engineering, getting clients onboarded? Is that a process that's pretty time and resource intensive, or is that something that you can largely get up and running pretty quickly?
So for our product, we built it with this in mind. However, for your EAP customers, you need to have that surface area of your organization on like that account engineering front to really build a better product, right? Because you need the customer feedback cycles. You need to know where their pain points are in leveraging your product. You need to know really quickly. You have to iterate fast on the challenges that they have. They need to feel taken care of. Those EAP customers need to feel taken care of, because it really is what informs a product like ours. It's what informs how you're going to iterate on your product moving forward. Where are those sticking points, or where are those friction points for you in serving your customer or in your customer's use of the product? You need that information, but you also need to be able to answer it fast too, right? So that account engineering sector and we see that largely as that customer success / operations front, surface area of your organization, and which is really the experience of your organization past your product, right?
Hmm.
And it also helps us to help, to fuel that customer experience of the product as well. It is a big bottleneck for us, right? Just because we're a small 8-person organization. So it is a bottleneck for us, but it's something that we seek to scale pretty quickly with additional cash, whether it's from the revenue side, or whether or not we do have that next investor that just wants to onboard and take us to that next level. But that's what we would do with that cash. It's certainly the piece of scale that we would go to, which is that operations engineering on the account engineering front, customer success front, and those different pieces.
Awesome. Well, Todd, this has been great. Thank you for sharing so much. I've really enjoyed hearing about your story and what you've been going through. Thank you so much. Where can people find you and find out more about Opnbook?
Yeah. So you can just go right to our website, opnbook.com. That's OPNBOOK.com. No E. So it's OPNBOOK.com. There you can see everything, learn all about TAHO, our product, and it's also a great path to engage us. But if you just want to email us, you can just email me directly, todd@opnbook.com, TODD at Opnbook, OPNBOOK.com. And be happy to take care of you and help you out. Yeah. And likewise, Chris, this has been fantastic meeting you, and, learning all about your organization as well, and the services that you guys provide. And certainly it's been fun talking with you here today on this podcast, because it's fun to share these things. It's a little bit therapeutic, to be honest with you. It's fun to share it a little bit, speak your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. And for listeners, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, as it helps us be found by the algorithms. And as always, keep pitching, keep building, and keep scaling.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitch, Build, Scale. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.